there's a problem going around with artists, and I think we need to talk about it today. One of the things that I hear far too often since entering the comic space after so many years away, prompted by the launch of Ka-pow and relaunching my studio, oftentimes I'm approached by adults that have this expression of longing and regret, and they'll look at me and they'll say, I used to draw when I was a kid. I used to draw all the time when I was a kid. And there's something very sad about that to me. When I hear that, I hear I've lost joy. I hear the 12-year-old in me grew up and I don't know how to get it back. And I don't sit in any type of criticism of it because I fully understand it. As fully realized adults, we feel that we always have to be adulting. All the responsibilities that come with maturity, home, job, finances, interpersonal relationships, the whole 9 yards, kids, spouse, whatever the case may be. Life starts lifing for many of us. And usually that's the crossroads for the creative, is reconciling life with creativity. And the reason it hurts so much is because I understand it. I understand it far too well. When I hear that come from an adult's mouth, and I hear the pain, I hear the longing, I hear the reminiscing, because many of us can relate to, grabbing a piece of paper or a notepad and our favorite show coming on television, or seeing our favorite comic strip, or getting a comic book or a toy, and the urge to bring it to life via our own hands. And there's something magical about it, right? There's something very, very fantastic about it. But if we're not careful as adults, we will let life steal precious things from us. I know because I've done it. In this series that we're calling Cop2comics, I'm just trying to share with you guys my journey, some points of emphasis. Hopefully I have a story that I can relate to, and usually I do, much to the chagrin of my family. Dad, you always got a story for everything. Yeah, I'm that guy now. But I do understand that. I understand how it feels to drift away from your passion, to drift away, to get lost in the rat race, because you're trying to make it happen. You're trying to make the American dream a reality. I'm no different. Recently I was talking to a friend of mine who's a very established creator, both in Hollywood and in comics. And we look forward to our weekly chats. But we were talking, and our friendship is new, so we're still in that kind of getting to know each other phase. In the spirit of getting to know one another, I finally shared with him, some of my work that I don't share a lot of. You may see it at a con or something like that. And so I got him on a Google Meet call. And, my studio's set up for live streaming and all that stuff. And it will be coming here. Trust that. I promise. I have hours of both pre-recorded, and I just want to do some live sessions here as the channels grow, and just show you guys, the love and the affection that we have for the comic craft here at Ka-pow. And so anyway, I was talking to him and I was sharing with him, because like many people, as I said in the last video, he wanted to know who am I, right? As a creator, he'd never heard of me. And, there was a fair amount of skepticism with my level of opinion and my level of opinionation, as well as, the fact that I'm over an entity that's teaching this, to adult students and, soon young ones. And so, to give him context, I got him on a meet call, and I cracked open the portfolio, took him down memory lane. I think he was impressed. What he said to me hit me so hard that it inevitably forced me to take a step back and to recalibrate, reconnect with myself as a creator. He said, Solo, where have you been all this time? Why have you been so isolated? And I told him, I said, brother, I've been doing life, man. I didn't feel I needed it. I had a career. You know, I was in law enforcement. I had a family. I needed health benefits and, you know, to keep the lights on, and working part-time jobs doing, you know, armed security and bodyguard, and all trying to achieve the American dream. I didn't need it. But as I said that to him, I realized just how much I was wrong. And mind you, this wasn't a conversation a few years ago. At the time of this recording, this conversation happened 3 weeks ago. Man. But as I reflected on the conversation and the sincerity of his inquiry, I started remembering all the people that I've met in the past 4 years since launching Ka-pow. They come up and it's like, oh, a school that teaches this. Oh, and they're flipping through the portfolio. And they're like, yeah, I used to draw when I was a kid. And that saddens me every time I hear it. And, you know, trying to be encouraging, I'm like, well, what's stopping you from picking up the pencil now? But when he said that to me, I realized that's been me. You see, as I started and stated in the previous video, art, I always kind of circled the drain with it. You know, it was something that I had an affinity for, I had some talent for, but it was not something that I was ever really reinforced that I could earn a quantifiable living with. You know, even though I was working at 14 regularly doing illustrations for a screen printer, I didn't get like the reinforcement at home, to be quite honest. My parents were pursuing said American dream, raising kids, working the whole 9 yards. So they just said, oh, it's just something he's doing. You can earn a little cash, good for him. But there was never that consistent reinforcement that you got something here. You need to pursue this. Son, you can make a living doing this. It wasn't that. It was always, you know, house school, your grades, go get a real job so that you can support your family when you have one one day. And though it was a good message, it was an insufficient one, to be quite honest, especially for the artist. And so, fast forward, I'm doing life, man. I'm in the military, I'm overseas, I'm seeing the world, sowing my oats, so to speak, stretching my legs, just being in my 20s. And fast forward, again, I'll bring up the other points. You're going to hear me jump back and forth. So good luck with the timeline. I'm not even trying to I'm not going to even try to outline and be linear in this, because this is just me speaking off the cuff from the heart as it comes to me. So hopefully you guys can appreciate it. And so anyway, after I had gotten enough validation and confirmation that I was competent enough as a draftsman and a visual storyteller to enter, you know, the spectrum of the professional level, life kept happening. Kids kept coming, and I love my kids. They know the story. No shame. I've been that father, present, doing the job, working 6 nights a week on the squad car, doing the whole doing the whole thing, just doing the whole thing. Well, after I shuttered Honor Studios because of my lack of information and lack of confidence, to be quite honest, despite having something that was a modest hit the first time at bat, years went by and I didn't pick up a pencil. Years went by. I would like to say 2 or 3 years went by. And so we had moved, and my daughter Morgan, all my children are my heart, but she's the mini mom of my children. And so Morgan apparently said something to my wife. So I come home from work one day and my wife says, "Can I talk to you for a second?" I'm like, "Yeah, what's up?" She says, "Morgan came up to me today." And Morgan had to be like around the 6th grade maybe. And she said, "Daddy," she said, "Mommy," she's like, "why doesn't Daddy draw anymore?" And my wife said, "Well, baby, Daddy's out building a life for us. He's, this is how you get to pay for basketball and you get the shoes, and this is how we get to live in this nice house." And she said, "Mom, that's good." She says, "But Daddy's not happy." He said, "Daddy was always happiest when he was drawing." I'm not going to get emotional. This came from my little girl who observed the rhythm and the ebbs and flow of her dad and how important art had become to me. But because of my rightful sense of responsibility, like many of you guys are dealing with real life. I understand that. I can relate to that. There's a part of you that needs the release that only creativity can bring. When you've bitten of that forbidden fruit, there is no going back. And I think many of you know that. This is what I think the longing and the desire that I see in many people that I encounter. And the reason it hits home so hard for me is because I get it. I am grateful that wherever I am currently in my art journey, I don't deserve it. A lot of it is talent. It is not actual application. I've done some applicable things that were noteworthy, but when I look around the artistic landscape, I have to be honest with you. Oftentimes, I'm like, why am I sitting at these tables? Because I let life get in the way of enjoyment, of passion, of escape, of the whole 9 yards. And so that kind of brings me to today. I just literally got back from the comic book shop. Literally, just as you saw me sit in, I'm just got from the comic book shop, and we were prepping for our next podcast. I have a podcast with my son on another channel, and I was just popping in and check on the guys because Fan Expo Chicago just passed yesterday at the time of this recording, where we went and we scheduled some new interviews. Some will be happening here on Ka-pow, and some will be happening on the other channel that he and I have, Generation Geek. And so anyway, me and the store manager were talking, as we always do. We're the same age, literally the same age. And he was like, "Solo, I thought about what you said, how, you're taking the next month or two to really reconnect as an artist." And let me tell you something, y'all. It's been hard. When you disconnect, it becomes hard to reconnect those buttons, to find that flow, to find that rhythm. When I tell you the momentum, the necessity for it is real, it is so freaking real. And it's been hard for me. Yeah, the little sketches and doodles that I do for reels and shorts and stuff, that's fine. I'm talking about the heavy lifting. I'm talking about visual storytelling and getting into perspective and backgrounds and using all the tools and bringing all those creative muscles to bear. That is hard. It's like putting on 30 pounds of weight and then trying to run a marathon, and you're like, where did this weight come from? That is what it's like creatively. Let me be clear. I don't care how talented you are. When you put the pencil down for an extended period of time and you try to do anything that is remotely demanding, sketching, doodling, pinups, that stuff ain't demanding. It really is not. It's the storytelling for us and the universe and the world creation. That's the heavy lifting. Okay. And when you're trying to do that after a long hiatus off, it is like it's Sisyphean in its effort, pushing a rock uphill. That's what it feels like, at least for me. And if you can relate, please leave something in the comments, being completely honest. And so I was talking to my guy Eddie, and he was telling me how it inspired him to get back to the creative part of him. And I'm like, great. And he asked me how it was going. I'm like, dude, it sucks right now. I said, we're more than halfway through the month and I've not made an eighth of the traction that I hoped I would at this point, but I'm being kind to myself. I think that's the message. Be kind to yourself creatively. It's not even creative block. If anything, it's creative resistance. And if you have not done so, you might want to check out the book, The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. I used to read it to our adult students when I taught at the International School of Comics here in Chicago. And you say, well, Solo, you're teaching. Let me be honest with you all. Teaching is not the same as doing. It is not. You can articulate, you can deliver the tenets, and you can do the demos and all the other stuff, but actually doing the deep dive, getting lost in a flow state, that is nirvana for the creative. And that's what I'm trying to get back to at the time of this recording. Because Ka-pow is demanding, as small as we are. It's demanding, okay? I have students, we have a social community, I have a team, I have website demands, I have marketing demands, and I'm really on the back end, on the not the front facing side. I'm the only one to do these things, but those things take you away from the main thing. I think it was Marquise Brownlee, the huge YouTuber here that deals with tech. He did a video. It's like when you're building the thing, once you start the thing and you start really building and leaning into the thing, you find yourself doing less of the thing and doing all the things that require the thing to live. But you're not doing the main thing. And the key is to stay connected to doing the main thing. And so between Ka-pow, between Honor Studios, I've committed to getting back to the main thing and kind of reshifting and recalibrating my priorities. But it's hard. Listen, you adults out there that are making things happen for your family and for your life, I get it. I commend you. But if you have an artist or a creative, I don't care if it's guitar, I don't care if it's painting, it doesn't matter if it's comics, knitting, it doesn't matter what it is. Give yourself permission. We spent many of our younger years dreaming about becoming an adult, right? If you guys can relate to that, leave something in the comments. We spend our childhood dreaming about all the things we're going to do when we become an adult. But when we become an adult, all those things we said we were going to do, we don't do. And then you know what we really don't do to add insult to injury? We don't give permission as an adult for the kid in us to come out and play. Inside of me, I still feel that 12-year-old boy who used to nestle up to his granny on her shag carpet with a stack of typing paper. Yes, typing paper. And her handing me the Sunday funnies and me laying on my stomach with some freshly sharpened pencils and some crayons and just getting lost. I have to give that kid permission. And I want you guys to give that kid permission today. This is not about you guys enrolling in Ka-pow. It's a commitment. This is about just getting back to that kid in you and letting him or her out to indulge in the childhood passions that brought joy to life. That's it. That's it. I'm working on that. You become so enraptured in being a responsible adult, yet you ignore the responsibility to the child in you. You have the responsibility to your own children, to your grandchildren, but you also have responsibilities to not neglect that child in you. And that's what I find myself doing far too often. And I'm committing to you guys right now, that stops today. That stops today. It's okay to get lost for a few hours. It's okay to create worlds of fantasy and fiction and do all the things that make your heart leap. And they don't have to be perfect, but they are yours. They are yours. Let the kid out to play. Hopefully this helps somebody that needed to hear it. You guys know where we are. Follow us everywhere at Ka-pow School. Like, subscribe, follow the whole 9 yards. A little bit of house cleaning. Yes, we are enrolling. We're accepting applications. We are a small school and to endeavor to stay so that we can give you guys the best experience possible without compromise. That's the housekeeping. But the message is this: be an adult and give permission to the kid in you. With that being said, I'm out your hair. I got some kid stuff to do. So, I'll see you guys later. Solo out.